There's two diagnostic manuals. We have the DSM-5 and we have the ICD-10. These systems, unfortunately, are not going to be overhauled until the next 20, 25 years. But I think it's important for us to start having conversations now about how can we influence this? And because of social media, because people have a voice now where they may not necessarily have had a voice before, we can start conversations going as to what you would actually like to see. Perhaps a diagnostic system where we just look at strengths and weaknesses rather than so many diagnostic labels would be quite helpful. I personally think that my ADHD diagnosis tells me absolutely nothing as to what caused this in the first place or what exacerbates my symptoms. I know that if I have caffeine, that helps my ADHD in short term, increases the symptoms in the long term. Rather than telling us that we have this kind of deficit that sort of has to be this lifelong label, I think it would be much better if we look at what's causing this issue, what do we do to improve it. When I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. I do not have dyslexia. This label was crippling for my confidence as an 8-year-old child. Another example, a family member diagnosed with bipolar. I said to him, it doesn't really matter whether you have bipolar or not. He's kind of confused about whether he does or not. Some of the symptoms look like they are bipolar. Sometimes it looks like it's not. What matters is, well, first of all, where did this come from in the first place? Most likely trauma. We may not ever completely know. And also, what is exacerbating it now? Well, actually, we think that it's food has a huge part to play, and also movement. Moving every single day and having a very solid practice in terms of movement seems to be helping, as well as a little bit of talking therapy, linking the triggers to the emotions sooner rather than later, because this is where things build up and this is where the manic episodes start to take place. Big Pharma is probably not going to like us not labeling people anymore, because then that would mean that people would be less reliant and less likely to take medication. Because if you're laying out to someone, here's your strengths, here's your weaknesses, here's how you can overcome your weaknesses, then you're actually mapping out a behavioral plan for them rather than teaching them that there's something wrong with their brain and helping them be reliant on medication for life. I've worked with very complex mental illness. I worked with people with schizophrenia who have been overly medicated, and while it would not necessarily be a good idea for them to come off all their medication, I have helped people reduce their medication, working very closely with psychiatrists and then looking at their strengths and looking at actually how can they build on their strengths and how can they do behaviors that can help with their deficits. I think we need a whole overhaul of the diagnostic system, but what I'm interested in hearing about is, what would you like to see in terms of diagnosis? How would you like to see it change so that we're not stigmatizing so many people?